Listen to me carefully, because what I am about to say is not noise, it is not fear, it is not rumor. It is a warning that your spirit must hear before your ears dismiss it. Another lockdown is coming soon. You can laugh at it. You can scroll past it. You can pretend it will not affect you. But deep inside, there is something stirring. There is a quiet voice whispering, prepare. And I tell you today, that whisper is not panic. It is God urging His people to awaken before the doors close again. When the last lockdown came, it did not only shut businesses, it shut confidence. It did not only empty streets, it emptied hearts. It did not only close borders, it exposed the fragile borders of our faith. People thought their security was in systems, in salaries, in social approval, in routines. And in a single announcement, the world trembled. But I ask you today, did God tremble? Did God panic? Did God lose control? No, God was not surprised. God was not shaken. God was not confused. The same God who rules the heavens still ruled when the cities were silent. Another lockdown is coming soon, and the question is not whether supermarkets will remain open. The question is whether your spirit will remain open. The question is not whether offices will close. The question is whether your faith will close. Because the greatest lockdown is not the one imposed by governments, it is the one imposed by fear. And fear is the most contagious virus that has ever existed. Fear spreads faster than disease. Fear destroys faster than recession. Fear isolates deeper than quarantine. And fear only thrives where faith is weak. Hear me, this time must be different for you. When the world locks down, you must level up. When movement is restricted, your prayer must expand. When noise decreases, your connection with God must increase. Because sometimes God allows silence in the world so you can finally hear Him clearly. When the streets are loud, you ignore Him. When your calendar is full, you postpone Him. When your life is busy, you minimize Him. But when everything stops, suddenly you remember that God is your true source. Another lockdown is coming soon, but this is not a message of doom. This is a message of positioning. God is not warning you to frighten you. He is warning you to fortify you. There is a difference. Fear paralyzes, preparation empowers. And God does not paralyze His people. He prepares them. If you sense a shaking coming, it is because God is calling you to build deeper foundations. A house built on sand fears the storm. A house built on rock anticipates it with confidence. During the last crisis, many discovered what truly owned them. Some were owned by their routines. Some were owned by social validation. Some were owned by their income streams. When those things were interrupted, identity collapsed. But I declare to you, if your identity is rooted in God, no lockdown can lock your worth. No restriction can restrict your calling. No closure can close your destiny. God does not depend on open malls, open flights, or open borders to fulfill His promises in your life. Do you understand that sometimes isolation is divine strategy? When God wants to transform a person, He often removes them from distraction. He reduces their circle, He quiets their environment, He cuts off the noise, not to punish them, but to refine them. So when another lockdown comes, instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is God building in me? Because when the outside slows down, the inside must strengthen. You must shift your perspective. The world will say, another crisis is coming. But the Spirit must say, another opportunity for growth is coming. The world will say, prepare for shortage. But faith says, prepare for supernatural provision. The world will say, protect yourself from collapse. But God says, trust me to sustain you. And this is not blind optimism. This is conviction rooted in the character of God. God has never abandoned His creation. God has never lost authority. God has never failed to provide for those who seek Him sincerely. Let me speak directly to your anxiety. You are worried about income. You are worried about stability. You are worried about the unknown. But tell me, was your paycheck your provider, or was God your provider? The paycheck was a channel. The office was a channel. The economy was a channel. But the source has always been God. And when one channel closes, God can open another. You limit God when you limit your imagination to systems you understand. But God's creativity exceeds every system that exists. Another law, lockdown is coming soon, and some will see it as a prison. But those who walk with God will see it as a preparation chamber. A seed is buried before it breaks forth. It looks like confinement. It feels like darkness. It seems like death. But under the soil, life is multiplying. Roots are expanding. Strength is forming. When the time is right, what was hidden becomes unstoppable. Maybe the next season of restriction is not burial, it is planting. You cannot enter a storm untrained and expect victory. The time to strengthen your faith is before the doors close. The time to discipline your mind is before isolation tests you. The time to align your priorities is before distractions disappear. Because when everything external is stripped away, you will be left with the condition of your inner life. And if your inner life is empty, isolation will feel like torture. But if your inner life is rich with connection to God, isolation will feel like empowerment. Another lockdown is coming soon, and this time you must not waste it complaining. The last time, many spent months scrolling, arguing, worrying, and consuming fear. But imagine if those months had been invested in building skills, strength, thinning families, deepening faith, and clarifying vision. Imagine if silence had been used for strategy. Imagine if restriction had been used for reflection. You cannot change the past, but you can redeem the future. Let this next season, whatever it looks like, become your personal revival. When the world says, stay home, you say, I will build my altar. When the world says, avoid crowds, you say, I will seek God in solitude. When the world says, prepare for uncertainty, you say, I will anchor myself in eternal truth, because uncertainty is only terrifying when your foundation is temporary. But when your foundation is God, uncertainty becomes a stage for faith to rise. You must understand that every shaking reveals what cannot be shaken. When economies tremble, when systems falter, when routines dissolve, what remains? Character remains. Integrity remains. Your relationship with God remains. And if those are intact, you are wealthier than any stock market surge. The world measures wealth by accumulation. God measures wealth by depth. And depth is developed in seasons when surface comforts are removed. Another lockdown is coming soon, but listen. God is not limited by lockdowns. God is not confined by walls. God is not silenced by empty buildings. When gatherings are restricted, God still moves in homes. When travel is limited, God still moves in hearts. When distance separates people, God draws closer to those who call upon Him. You must not equate physical limitation with spiritual limitation. Your body may be confined, but your spirit can soar. This is the hour to strengthen your prayer life, not as ritual, but as relationship, not as obligation, but as dependence. Because when news headlines shout, only the whisper of God can calm your soul. When statistics rise and predictions darken, only the presence of God can stabilize your emotions. And you cannot suddenly build that connection in panic. You cultivate it daily, intentionally, consistently. Another lockdown is coming soon, and families will be together again in confined spaces. That can either expose fractures or create unity. The difference will be intentional leadership. If you bring frustration into your home, confinement will magnify it. If you bring patience and prayer into your home, confinement will strengthen bonds. God can use forced proximity to heal relationship. Past that business has neglected, do not let stress steal that opportunity. You must also prepare your mind. Isolation attacks thoughts. When routines disappear, the mind wanders. When social interaction reduces, inner voices grow louder. That is why you must fill your mind with truth before the silence comes. Speak life over yourself. Declare God's faithfulness. Remind your spirit that no crisis outruns divine wisdom. Because if you do not govern your thoughts, fear will. Another lockdown is coming soon, and some businesses may close. But remember this, your creativity does not close. Your resilience does not close. Your ability to learn does not close. God has placed within you gifts that are not dependent on physical buildings. Many discovered new paths during the last crisis because pressure forced innovation. Do not curse the pressure that may reveal your potential. This is not about denying reality. This is about redefining it. Reality says challenges are coming. Faith says God is already there. Reality says prepare for difficulty. Faith says prepare for growth. Reality says brace yourself. Faith says anchor yourself. And anchoring yourself in God does not make you naive. It makes you unshakable. Another lockdown is coming soon, and you have a choice. You can enter it reactive or ready. Reactive people wait for announcements before adjusting. Ready people prepare before the storm hits. Build your emergency fund. Strengthen your health. Organize your priorities. But above all, fortify your spirit, because even the most organized plan collapses without inner stability. Let me remind you, God is not the author of confusion. Even when the world appears chaotic, there is divine order operating beyond what you see. Trust does not mean you understand everything. Trust means you believe God understands everything. And that belief transforms how you respond to uncertainty. Instead of panic, you move with purpose. Instead of despair, you act with discipline. Another lockdown is coming soon, and the world may grow darker in tone. Conversations may become negative. Predictions may become grim, but you must guard your atmosphere. What you consume shapes your courage. If you feed on fear constantly, you will produce anxiety. If you feed on faith, you will produce confidence. Choose carefully what enters your ears and eyes, because in isolation, input becomes influence. You are not powerless. You are not abandoned. You are not at the mercy of headlines. You are a person created with purpose, sustained by God, guided by wisdom, and strengthened through discipline. If another season of restriction comes, let it find you wiser than before. Let it find you stronger than before. Let it find you deeper than before. Do not say, I survived the last lockdown. Say, I was shaped by it. Survival is the lowest level of victory. Transformation is higher. And God is not interested in merely helping you survive. God desires to refine you, to mature you, to elevate your understanding. Pressure reveals what comfort conceals. Another lockdown is coming soon, and you may feel the weight of uncertainty pressing on your chest even now. But breathe, slow down. Remember who sustains you. God has carried humanity through wars, plagues, collapses, and revolutions. This moment is not beyond divine wisdom. This season is not outside divine sovereignty. Stand firm, strengthen your spirit. Align your priorities, deepen your trust. When doors close, look upward. When plans shift, anchor deeper. When noise rises, seek silence with God, because no lockdown can improve. Ice in a heart that trusts completely in God. Do not underestimate what is happening beneath the surface of global events. When patterns begin to repeat, it is not coincidence, it is a call to discernment. Another lockdown is coming soon, and while analysts will debate policies and experts will interpret data, you must rise above the noise and perceive the deeper lesson. God allows seasons to cycle because humanity forgets quickly. Comfort makes people careless. Stability makes people self-reliant. Ease makes people spiritually dull. And when self-reliance replaces dependence on God, shaking becomes necessary to awaken hearts. You were not created to live dependent on systems that can collapse overnight. You were created to live anchored to God, who does not collapse. Your peace was never meant to be tied to predictability. It was meant to be rooted in trust. When predictability disappears, your trust is exposed. When normal life is interrupted, your priorities are revealed. Another lockdown is not just a public event. It is a personal examination. It tests what you truly believe about provision, protection, and purpose. There are people who will interpret this next season as a curse. They will complain about restrictions. They will argue about freedom. They will focus only on what is being taken away. But those who walk closely with God will ask a different question. What is being given to me in this season? Because sometimes the removal of distractions is a gift. Sometimes the slowing down of life is mercy. Sometimes the interruption of routine is an invitation to rediscover meaning. You must prepare your heart for endurance. The first days of a lockdown feel manageable. The second week feels inconvenient. The third month feels heavy. Endurance is not built in comfort, it is built in commitment. And commitment to God is not measured by emotional excitement. It is measured by consistency. When nothing feels inspiring, when you wake up and the news is discouraging, will you still give thanks? When your plans are postponed again, will you still trust? When the future looks unclear, will you still declare that God is sufficient? Another lockdown is coming soon, and this time your response must be strategic. Do not let isolation shrink your vision. Expand it. Use the stillness to write, to think, to plan, to pray. God often gives direction in quiet places. When the noise of daily survival is removed, clarity can surface. You may discover dreams you buried years ago. You may rediscover talents you ignored. You may finally confront fears you avoided. Isolation can either imprison you in your thoughts or free you from illusions. The difference is how you approach it. Guard your gratitude fiercely. In crisis, gratitude feels unnatural. Complaining feels easier. But gratitude is an act of spiritual defiance. When you thank God in uncertain times, you are declaring that your faith is not conditional. You are saying, my trust does not depend on circumstances. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is lacking to what is present. It reminds you that even in restriction, breath remains. Even in uncertainty, opportunity remains. Even in silence, God remains. Another lockdown is coming soon, and some relationships will be tested again. Tension rises when space feels limited. Patience wears thin when stress accumulates. But this is where character speaks louder than comfort. You must choose to become a source of stability for others. Do not add to the anxiety in your household. Bring calm. Do not amplify fear in conversations. Speak reassurance rooted in your trust in God. Leadership is not about titles. It is about influence in moments of pressure. You must also confront the temptation to escape reality through distraction. When life feels heavy, it is easy to numb yourself, or It's endless entertainment, endless scrolling, endless consumption. But numbness is not healing. Distraction is not transformation. If another lockdown restricts your movement, do not restrict your growth. Use the time intentionally. Read deeply. Reflect honestly. Pray sincerely. Develop discipline. Strengthen your mind. Because when the world reopens, those who use the season wisely will step forward with new capacity. Another lockdown is coming soon, and economies may tremble again. Markets may fluctuate, jobs may shift, but your value does not fluctuate with markets. Your worth is not tied to employment status. God's view of you does not rise and fall with financial charts. Understand this deeply. Money is a tool, not a master. Security is a gift, not a guarantee. If your identity is anchored in financial stability, every downturn will shake you. But if your identity is anchored in God, you can navigate downturns with dignity. You must cultivate inner resilience now. Resilience is not pretending everything is fine. It is choosing faith when everything feels fragile. It is acknowledging uncertainty while refusing to surrender hope. God never promised that life would be free from trials, but He consistently calls you to courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is obedience in spite of fear. And obedience to God brings strength that circumstances cannot steal. Another lockdown is coming soon, and information will flood your screens again. Statistics, opinions, predictions, debates, it will feel overwhelming. You must learn to filter what you allow into your spirit. Not every headline deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Protect your peace intentionally. Limit exposure to negativity. Replace it with reflection on the greatness of God. When your mind is saturated with divine truth, panic loses its grip. There is also a lesson about humility in these cycles. Humanity often believes it controls everything: technology, science, progress, infrastructure. And yet, something microscopic can pause the entire globe. That reality should not terrify you, it should humble you. It should remind you that ultimate authority belongs to God alone. When you recognize that truth, arrogance dissolves, and in humility, wisdom grows. Another lockdown is coming soon, and children will observe how adults respond. They will watch your tone, they will sense your stress, they will absorb your outlook. Let them see steadiness, let them witness trust. Teach them that faith in God is not theoretical, it is practical. Show them that when the world shifts, you kneel in prayer. When plans change, you adapt with patience. When uncertainty rises, you speak words of hope. Do not allow this coming season to steal your joy. Joy is not laughter without problems. Joy is confidence in God despite problems. It is a quiet assurance that no crisis outruns divine mercy. When you choose joy, you are not ignoring reality. You are declaring that reality is not ultimate. God is ultimate, and that truth liberates you from despair. Another lockdown is coming soon, and some dreams may feel delayed again. Weddings postponed, business is paused, travel plans cancelled, goals interrupted. But delay is not denial. Timing belongs to God. There are moments when waiting refines your motives and strengthens your patience. What you build too quickly may not withstand pressure. What God prepares through delay often carries deeper stability. Use this time to evaluate your spiritual habits. Are you consistent in seeking God only when life is smooth? Or do you deepen your devotion when challenges arise? Make your connection to God daily, not seasonal. Let prayer become your reflex, not your emergency measure. Let gratitude become your lifestyle, not your reaction to good news. Another lockdown is coming soon, and loneliness may resurface for many. Human beings crave connection. Isolation can feel heavy. But remember, this solitude with God is never emptiness. It is fullness waiting to be discovered. When external voices quiet down, the inner voice of guidance becomes clearer. Learn to sit in silence without fear. Learn to reflect without distraction. Learn to find contentment in presence rather than activity. Strengthen your physical health as well. Care for your body responsibly. Rest adequately. Eat wisely. Move intentionally. Faith does not replace responsibility, it empowers it. Trusting God does not mean neglecting wisdom. Prepare practically while trusting spiritually. This balance reflects maturity. Another lockdown is coming soon, and the temptation to compare your situation with others will intensify. Social media will display curated highlights. Some will appear unaffected. Others will seem to thrive. Do not measure your journey against theirs. God's plan for you is specific. Comparison steals peace and breeds insecurity. Focus on your assignment. Tend to your growth. Trust that your path unfolds under divine awareness. When fear whispers that you are unprepared, answer with truth. Remind yourself of past challenges you survived. Recall moments when provision arrived unexpectedly. Remember times when clarity came after confusion. God has carried you before. That history is evidence for your future. You are not entering unknown territory alone. Another lockdown is coming soon, and it will test patience on a global scale. But patience is powerful. It slows impulsive reactions, it preserves relationships, it protects decisions from emotional extremes. Patience is strength under control. Ask God to cultivate that strength within you. Do not overlook the opportunity for generosity. In times of crisis, selfishness can grow. People hoard resources, they protect only themselves. But generosity reflects trust. When you share what you have, even in uncertainty, you declare that your confidence is not in accumulation, but in God's continued provision. Generosity creates light in dark seasons. Another lockdown is coming soon, and some will lose hope. Be the person who refuses to surrender to despair. Speak life in conversations. Offer encouragement. Remind others of resilience. Your words can either deepen darkness or ignite courage. Choose them carefully. Above all, anchor yourself daily in the remembrance of God's sovereignty. No government announcement overrides divine authority. No restriction confines divine wisdom. No season escapes divine awareness. When you truly internalize this, panic loses its power. Calm becomes your posture. Discipline becomes your habit. Faith becomes your foundation. Stand tall in this knowledge. Prepare wisely. Live intentionally. Trust completely. Let this next season, whatever form it takes, find you anchored, awakened, and aligned with God's purpose. Let it refine you instead of reducing you. Let it deepen you instead of diminishing you. Let it reveal strength you did not know you possessed. Because when you are rooted in God, no lockdown can imprison your destiny, no silence can mute your calling, and no uncertainty can separate you from the sustaining power of the one who holds all seasons in his hands. And let me take you even deeper, because this is not only about surviving another external restriction, this is about breaking internal chains that were never visible. Another lockdown is coming soon, and while doors may close physically, many of you have been living behind invisible doors for years. Doors of procrastination, doors of fear, doors of compromise, doors of spiritual laziness. When movement outside slows down, you can no longer blame business for your stagnation. You must confront yourself, and sometimes that confrontation is the very mercy of God. Do not misunderstand the season. A lockdown does not create weakness, it reveals it. It does not create anxiety, it exposes what was already fragile. It does not create distance from God, it reveals whether you were distant all along. When distractions disappear, reality becomes clearer. You begin to see where your trust truly lies. You begin to see what controls your emotions. You begin to see how easily shaken you are. And that clarity is not condemnation, it is an invitation to rebuild stronger. Another lockdown is coming soon, and you must prepare your spirit to reject the voice of victimhood. Victimhood whispers, "Why is this happening to me?" Faith declares, "What is God shaping in me?" Victimhood magnifies loss. Faith magnifies lessons. Victimhood focuses on limitations. Faith searches for hidden strength. You cannot control global events, but you can control your posture, and posture determines progress. You were not created to crumble under pressure. You were created to be refined by it. Think about how iron is strengthened through fire. Think about how endurance is developed through resistance. Think about how patience is formed through waiting. If you pray for growth but reject discomfort, you are asking for transformation without process. God transforms through process. And process often feels inconvenient before it feels rewarding. Another lockdown is coming soon, and many will feel stripped of control again. Plans will be cancelled. Timelines will shift. Expectations will dissolve. But perhaps control was an illusion all along. You were never in ultimate control. You were simply accustomed to stability. When stability disappears, you must choose surrender. And surrender to God is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is recognizing that divine understanding exceeds human prediction. There is also a deeper purification happening in times like these. When everything moves quickly, motives are rarely examined. But when life slows down, you start to question why you chase certain things. Why did you run so hard? Why did you compromise peace for achievement? Why did you sacrifice time with family for status? Another lockdown forces evaluation, and evaluation is necessary before elevation. Do not fear silence. In silence, God speaks clarity. In stillness, God reveals direction. Many of you have been praying for guidance while drowning in noise. You asked for answers while your schedule left no room to listen. What if this coming season is your answer? What if the slowdown is your opportunity to finally hear what has been whispered to your spirit for years? Another lockdown is coming soon, and some will experience financial tightening again. Let this be the season where you learn contentment, Contentment is not settling for less. It is trusting that what you have in this moment is sufficient for this moment. When you cultivate contentment, fear loses leverage. You stop measuring your life against abundance alone and begin valuing simplicity. God does not measure your life by possessions. He measures your heart by trust. This next season may also challenge your discipline. Without external structure, many people drift. They wake without purpose, they waste hours, they delay responsibilities. But discipline is self-governance. It is proof of maturity. If another lockdown removes external accountability, you must increase internal accountability. Set goals. Create structure. Guard your time. Because unstructured days can quietly erode ambition. Another lockdown is coming soon, and you must be emotionally prepared. Emotions fluctuate when routines disappear. Some days will feel productive, others will feel heavy. Do not let temporary emotions dictate permanent conclusions. A difficult day does not mean a hopeless season. A moment of discouragement does not define your future. Anchor your emotions in truth about God's constancy. When feelings shift, truth remains steady. Let me also speak about faith in action. Faith is not passive waiting. Faith is active alignment. If you trust God for provision, then act responsibly. If you trust God for health, then care for your body. If you trust God for stability, then manage your resources wisely. Trust does not eliminate responsibility. It strengthens it. Preparation and prayer walk together. Another lockdown is coming soon, and your influence will matter more than ever. In crisis, people look for anchors. Be that anchor. Speak with calm conviction. Refuse to spread rumors. Refuse to participate in panic-driven conversations. Let your words reflect stability rooted in God. When others are overwhelmed, your steadiness will testify louder than speeches. There is also a spiritual maturity that comes from enduring repeated trials. The first time you were shocked. The second time you are wiser. Repetition is not always punishment. Sometimes it is reinforcement. You are being trained to live beyond circumstances. You are being trained to detach your peace from predictability. You are being trained to walk by trust rather than sight. Another lockdown is coming soon, and perhaps this time it will not only test your resources but your resilience. Resilience is built through remembrance. Remember how far you have come. Remember how you adapted before. Remember how creativity emerged in crisis. God did not bring you through previous storms only to abandon you now. History itself is evidence of sustained mercy. Let this be the season where you strengthen your family spiritually. Pray together. Reflect together. Encourage one another. Speak openly about fears and replace them with faith. Unity is powerful. When hearts align in trust, fear weakens. A household grounded in God becomes a fortress against despair. Another lockdown is coming soon, and this time do not merely count the days until it ends. Count the lessons. Count the habits you build. Count the insights you gain. Count the gratitude you cultivate. When the doors reopen, do not rush back to the same patterns that left you spiritually dry. Carry forward what you learned. Growth is wasted if it is forgotten. Understand this deeply. Restriction does not restrict destiny. Destiny is guided by God, not by circumstance. Your path may look different than planned, but different does not mean defeated. Sometimes detours protect you from unseen harm. Sometimes delays align you with better timing. Trust the unseen orchestration beyond visible disruption. Another lockdown is coming soon, and it will challenge comfort zones. Comfort zones shrink your potential. They make you dependent on familiarity. When comfort is removed, courage is required. See, our age expands capacity. It forces innovation. It compels creativity. It strengthens resolve. What you once thought you could not handle becomes proof of your growth. Do not allow fatigue to turn into cynicism. After repeated crises, hearts can harden. People become skeptical. They lose sensitivity. Guard your heart carefully. Stay compassionate. Stay hopeful. Stay open to growth. Cynicism may feel protective, but it suffocates joy. Another lockdown is coming soon, and this time, enter it with vision. Write down what you want to accomplish. Clarify what needs healing. Identify what needs discipline. Decide who you want to become by the time it ends. If the season is inevitable, make it intentional. If the slowdown is unavoidable, make it purposeful. You must also remember that faith does not guarantee ease. It guarantees meaning. Even difficult seasons can carry profound meaning when surrendered to God. Meaning transforms suffering into strength. Meaning turns waiting into preparation. Meaning shifts your focus from frustration to formation. Another lockdown is coming soon, and your testimony will not be about how restricted you were, but about how rooted you became. It will not be about what was cancelled, but about what was cultivated. It will not be about what you lost, but about what you learned. When you align with God in uncertainty, every season carries fruit. Stand firm. Refuse to let uncertainty dictate your identity. Refuse to let restriction shrink your faith. Refuse to let fear dominate your mind. Instead, deepen your trust, strengthen your discipline, expand your gratitude, sharpen your focus, and let your heart declare daily that no matter how the world shifts, God remains constant, God remains sovereign, God remains sufficient. And in that unchanging truth, you will find the courage to rise above every coming season with unwavering conviction and unbreakable peace. And now I speak to the part of you that is tired of uncertainty, tired of disruption, tired of rebuilding after every wave. You may be thinking, how many times must we endure this? But listen carefully, endurance is not a sign that you are forgotten. It is proof that you are being fortified. Another lockdown is coming soon, and it will not arrive to destroy those who trust in God. It will arrive to distinguish them. In seasons of pressure, the difference between surface belief and rooted conviction becomes unmistakable. There is a strength that only develops when comfort is withdrawn. When everything is convenient, faith is casual. When everything is accessible, gratitude is shallow. But when access is limited, appreciation deepens. When movement is restricted, reflection increases. When distractions fall away, devotion can intensify. God does not need crisis to reach you, but sometimes crisis is what finally gets your attention. Another lockdown is coming soon, and I urge you not to approach it with dread, but with spiritual alertness. Be watchful over your inner world. The greatest battles during isolation are not fought outside, they are fought within the mind. Thoughts will try to exaggerate worst-case scenarios. Imagination will attempt to magnify uncertainty. But your mind must be disciplined by truth. Speak to yourself with conviction. God is aware. D is capable. God is present. Repeat it until fear loses its volume. Do not forget that every season carries hidden seeds. In previous restrictions, many discovered talents they never used before. Businesses were reimagined. Families reconnected. Priorities shifted. Yes, there was pain, but there was also progress. Pain and progress often grow in the same soil. If you only focus on the pain, you will miss the progress. If you only lament what was lost, you will overlook what is being built. Another lockdown is coming soon, and your habits will either protect you or weaken you. Habits formed in private determine strength displayed in public. If you train your spirit daily through reflection, gratitude, discipline, and remembrance of God, you will not be easily shaken. But if your inner life is neglected, external disruption will feel overwhelming. What you do before the storm matters more than what you do during it. You must also understand the power of perspective. Two people can experience the same restriction and emerge completely different. One emerges bitter, resentful, and exhausted. The other emerges wiser, calmer, and stronger. The difference is not circumstance, it is interpretation. If you interpret this coming season as a prison, you will feel confined. If you interpret it as preparation, you will feel empowered. Perspective is not denial, it is direction. Another lockdown is coming soon, and you must guard your speech. Words carry atmosphere. If you constantly declare, this is terrible, this is hopeless, this will ruin everything, your heart will begin to believe it. But if you declare, this is challenging, but God will guide me through it, this is difficult, but I will grow through it, you strengthen your own resolve. Speak carefully. Speak life. Speak with faith anchored in divine wisdom. Let this be the season where you simplify your life. Complexity drains energy. Excess consumes focus. When movement slows, evaluate what truly matters. Remove unnecessary burdens. Clear mental clutter. Release grudges. Forgive past offenses. Simplify your commitments. A lighter heart navigates heavy seasons more effectively. Another lockdown is coming soon, and I challenge you to prepare your character, not just your supplies. You can stock shelves with food, but have you stocked your heart with patience? You can secure finances, but have you secured our trust in God? You can organize your schedule, you can organize your schedule, but have you organized your priorities? Character sustains you longer than resources. Integrity sustains you longer than income. You may feel that repeated disruptions are unfair, but fairness is not the measure of faith. Faith is measured by obedience in difficulty. God does not promise an uninterrupted path. He promises presence in the midst of it. Presence is more powerful than predictability. Knowing that you are guided even when you cannot see the full road ahead is a deeper security than having every detail mapped out. Another lockdown is coming soon, and with it may come another opportunity to confront hidden fears. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of isolation, fear of uncertainty. Instead of suppressing these fears, bring them before God honestly. Acknowledging fear is not weakness. It is the first step toward overcoming it. When fear is exposed to truth, it shrinks. When fear is surrendered, it loses authority. There is also a lesson in detachment. Many people discovered how attached they were to routines, gatherings, and constant activity. When those were removed, emptiness surfaced. That emptiness is not meant to condemn you. It is meant to redirect you. Detachment from temporary comforts allows attachment to eternal truth. When you learn to be steady without constant stimulation, you gain emotional independence. Another lockdown is coming soon, and you must remember that growth often feels uncomfortable before it feels rewarding. Muscles ache before they strengthen. Minds struggle before they expand. Faith stretches before it stabilizes. If discomfort arises, do not immediately interpret it as harm. Ask what it is teaching you. Ask how it is shaping you. Ask how it is preparing you for responsibilities you cannot yet see. Do not underestimate the power of routine during uncertain seasons. Create daily rhythms that anchor you. Time for reflection, time for productivity, time for rest. Structure creates stability when external conditions feel unstable. Discipline creates momentum when motivation fluctuates. Build rhythms that keep your spirit aligned with God and your mind focused on apos. Another lockdown is coming soon, and this time you must refuse to drift spiritually. When gatherings reduce and external inspiration decreases, personal devotion becomes essential. Seek God intentionally. Reflect deeply. Strengthen your understanding. Let your faith mature beyond dependence on atmosphere or events. True conviction stands even when external reinforcement fades. Consider also the importance of service. Even in isolation, there are ways to uplift others through messages of encouragement, acts of kindness, responsible support. Service shifts focus from self to community. When you contribute to others' stability, your own heart becomes steadier. Generosity and compassion are powerful antidotes to despair. Another lockdown is coming soon. And I urge you to measure success differently during this season. Success may not look like expansion. It may look like preservation. It may not look like rapid achievement. It may look like steady endurance. Adjust your expectations wisely. Celebrate small victories. Honor consistent effort. Progress in difficult times is often quiet but meaningful. You're not entering this season empty-handed. You carry experience. You carry lessons learned. You carry resilience developed. You carry faith strengthened through previous trials. Do not forget your own history of survival and growth. What once felt impossible became manageable. What once felt overwhelming became navigable. That same resilience remains within you. Another lockdown is coming soon, and it will remind humanity once again of its vulnerability. Let that reminder not drive you into fear, but into humility. Humility recognizes dependence on God. Humility opens the heart to wisdom. Humility dissolves arrogance and invites growth. In humility, you find clarity. And as you move forward, let your heart remain anchored in one unwavering truth. Circumstances shift, system change, seasons rotate. But God does not fluctuate. God does not panic. God does not abandon. God does not weaken. When you align yourself with what is unchanging, you gain stability in a changing world. When you root yourself in what is eternal, you withstand what is temporary. So strengthen your spirit now. Sharpen your focus now. Deepen your trust now. Let this coming season find you alert, disciplined, compassionate, and courageous. Let it find you anchored in divine awareness and guided by steady conviction. Let it refine your patience, expand your wisdom, and solidify your faith. And when others look at you and ask how you remain steady amid uncertainty, your life itself will testify that your confidence is not in circumstances, but in God, the one who holds every season in perfect awareness and unwavering authority. So now, as I bring this message to its final charge, hear me with clarity and conviction. Another lockdown may come, restrictions may rise, uncertainty may spread, but none of it has the authority to define you, limit you, or silence your purpose when you are anchored in God. This is not the time to shrink back. This is not the time to surrender to fear. This is the time to stand taller in faith than you ever have before. You have heard the warning, but you have also received the wisdom. You have been reminded that preparation is power, that discipline is protection, that perspective is strength. You have been called not to panic, but to position yourself, not to complain, but to cultivate, not to drift, but to deepen. If another season of restriction arrives, let it find you ready, not just with supplies on your shelves, but with conviction in your spirit. Remember this above all: when the world slows down, your trust must rise up. When doors close, your devotion must open wider. When headlines shake the atmosphere, your heart must remain steady. You are not sustained by circumstances, you are sustained by God. And God is not seasonal, God is not limited. God is not surprised by tomorrow. Let this truth settle deep within you. Storms do not come to uproot those who are firmly planted. Shaking does not destroy what is deeply rooted. Darkness does not overcome a heart filled with unwavering trust. If you root yourself fully in God through prayer, through discipline, through gratitude, through humility, then no lockdown can imprison your peace. No restriction can confine your calling. No uncertainty can steal your identity. Walk into whatever comes next with courage. Walk into it with preparation. Walk into it with wisdom. Walk into it with calm authority rooted in faith. Let others be overwhelmed by speculation if they choose, but you remain anchored. Let others be driven by fear if they must, but you remain disciplined. Let others lose direction, but you remain aligned with purpose. Because at the end of the day, Rai will not remember how restricted you were. It will reflect how resilient you became. It will not measure how long you stayed inside walls. It will reveal how deeply you strengthened your foundation. It will not count the days of lockdown. It will reveal the growth that took place within them. Stand firm in this final declaration. Your future is not at the mercy of global events. Your peace is not dependent on public stability. Your destiny is not confined by temporary circumstances. God remains sovereign. God remains sufficient. God remains your source, your strength, your stability. And when the world asks how you endured another season of uncertainty without collapsing, your answer will not be complicated. It will be clear, steady, and powerful. You trusted God. You prepared wisely. You strengthened your spirit. And you refused to let fear have the final word.